Winston Churchill once said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Or did he? Let's take a closer look. Now, if you've ever sought a bit of motivation, you might have stumbled upon this gem and thought, "Ah, good old Winston, always good for a morale boost." But hold on to your monocles, because this quote might not be Churchill's after all. In fact, the earliest known appearance of this quote was found in a newspaper article from 1953, years after Churchill's most significant political period. It was attributed to an anonymous author, not the British Bulldog himself. Why the confusion, you ask? Well, due to Churchill's reputation as a master of rhetoric and his endless supply of inspirational speeches during World War II, it's easy to see why people might have simply assumed the quote was his. So the next time you're tempted to credit Churchill for this motivational quote, remember, not everything on the internet is as it seems. Moving on to our next misquote, "I cannot tell a lie. I did cut it with my hatchet." Supposedly said by George Washington. But did he really? Well, let's dive into this. This quote, often attributed to George Washington, is actually not his own words. It originates from a biography written by Parson Weems shortly after Washington's death. Weems was known for his, let's say, creative storytelling, and this cherry tree anecdote was likely one of his fabrications. The story goes that a young Washington chopped down his father's cherry tree, and when confronted, he confessed with the now infamous words. But here's the catch. There's no historical evidence that this incident ever happened. It's widely considered a myth, a piece of folklore, if you will, intended to illustrate Washington's virtue of honesty. It seems we've been cherry-picking our history facts, haven't we? So why is this quote so often attributed to Washington? Well, it's a compelling tale, isn't it? And it's stuck around much like a cherry stain on a white shirt. Looks like we can't always trust our history textbooks, can we? Now on to our third quote. "Elementary, my dear Watson." Sherlock Holmes's famous line. Or is it? Let's delve a bit deeper, shall we? This iconic phrase is widely attributed to the famous detective Sherlock Holmes, penned by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. However, brace yourselves, this phrase never actually appears in any of Doyle's stories or novels. That's right. Sherlock Holmes never said "elementary, my dear Watson" in any of the original 60 stories written by Doyle. The line first appeared in a parody by P.G. Wodehouse in 1915, and then later popularized by the films and TV series about the detective. Audiences latched onto the phrase because it encapsulates Holmes's superior intellect and his slightly patronizing attitude towards his loyal friend, Dr. Watson. The line has since become inseparable from the character, even though it's not from Doyle's pen. How's that for a plot twist? So it seems our dear detective never really said his most famous line. Scene script. Coming up next, "Let them eat cake," Marie Antoinette's infamous line. But was it hers? Let's slice into this cake of a quote, often served up as an example of Marie Antoinette's disregard for the starving French peasantry. But hold up, is the icing on this cake of history a little too sweet? Well, it turns out that Marie Antoinette might have been wrongfully decorated with these words. This quote actually predates her by at least a century. It's found in Jean-Jacques Rousseau's Confessions, where he attributes it to a great princess, but notably not to Marie. The reason for this misattribution? Well, it seems to be a case of historical telephone game. Over time, the narrative shifted, and the quote stuck to Marie Antoinette like a stubborn piece of fondant. So, while it's a tasty tidbit of trivia, remember, it's not entirely true. So, the next time you hear that quote, remember, it's not always about the cake. Finally, we've reached the end of our misquote journey. But why is it so important to verify quotes? Well, quotes are like little nuggets of wisdom from the past. They give us insight into the minds of those who've shaped history. However, when we misattribute these quotes, we risk painting an inaccurate picture of these individuals and the times they lived in. Imagine if we started attributing the phrase "to be or not to be" to Albert Einstein instead of Shakespeare. It would certainly change our perception of both these great minds, wouldn't it? Fact-checking quotes ensures we maintain the integrity of historical narratives, and it also prevents the spread of misinformation. In the era of digital communication, it's easier than ever for quotes to be misattributed. So, it's up to us to ensure we're sharing accurate information. Remember, just because a quote is popular doesn't mean it's accurately attributed. Always do a quick fact check before sharing it. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.